Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello, and thank you for once again tuning into the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andrew DeCino. I am back. It is Tuesday, hopefully, when you're listening to this, and we have a lot of fun things to talk about today. It's always fun when we talk about football, but in particular, what are we going to talk about today? Well, Jimmy Garoppolo, what's going on with him? Jimmy G, is he going to be playing in San Francisco, or are they going to move on from him? Do Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch want him? Who knows? Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, is there a rift there? We know the beef between Belichick and Brady, but is Belichick and Mr. Kraft, how are they doing? The Buccaneers, Super Bowl champions, they get all of their starters back, all 22. And if you include their kicker, there's 23. And then last but not least, I will be giving you a rundown of my favorite games that are the 17th added game in the NFL. As we all know, the NFL had a 17th game, and I will be giving my favorites of the additional game. Can't wait to go through it all with you. It should be a lot of fun. So, first things first, where will Jimmy Garoppolo end up in the 2021 NFL season? Well, that's a great question. But in order to answer that, let's just take it back a step, okay? So last Friday, might have been 2 Fridays ago now, Adam Schefter had reported that Miami traded the 3rd overall pick in the draft to San Francisco in exchange for San Francisco's first-round picks in 2021, that's the 12th overall, 2022, and 2023, and a 3rd-round pick in 2022. Okay, that is a lot to move up to the 3rd overall pick. Now, let's be real here. You're giving up all that draft capital, if you're San Francisco, to get the 3rd overall pick. You're getting yourself a quarterback. You are. The 49ers know it. We know it. Everyone knows it. There is no way you move up to that 3rd overall pick and then not get a quarterback. The question is, now there's multiple questions. What do you do with Jimmy Garoppolo? He is under contract for, I believe, $25 million a year. Now, can you ask Garoppolo to take a pay cut? Can you trade him? Because the thing with San Francisco now, they might have their hands tied a little bit. They keep saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a part of their 2021 plans. Now, of course, they have to, right? Because there are teams out there that would want Jimmy Garoppolo to play quarterback for them. New England Patriots in particular. Everyone in New England clamors to have Jimmy Garoppolo back, right? Because the 4 games that he played, and they liked him, and he fits the system. And yeah, sure, okay, so Jimmy Garoppolo can throw the ball, and that's a step better than what they have currently at quarterback. So that's no wonder they want him there. Okay, but in order to get anything back for Garoppolo, who, by the way, San Francisco gave up a 2nd-round pick to get from New England in the first place, which at the time was a steal. Now, if you're San Francisco, are you okay, let's say, giving Garoppolo away for a 2nd-round pick, call it a wash? And that leads and begs the question, has Garoppolo's value increased, decreased, or stayed the same since when New England traded him away in 2017. Okay. I think, and this is why San Francisco is doing what they're doing, I think he might have, his trade value probably has gone down from 2017. And not to say that, and I am not saying that what he was traded for in 2017 was worth the price at all. I don't. But that is what they had gotten for him. They had gotten a second-round pick. And really, for a guy who only played a handful of games, came in for Tom Brady in cleanup duty a couple of times in New England, played the opening game in 2016 against Arizona, went into Arizona and won, played the first half against Miami in week 2 before he got hurt, and then Jacoby Brissett came in for games 3 and 4 during Tom Brady's 2016 4-game suspension. Okay. So do I think that, trading him for a second-round pick and then paying him all that money if you're San Francisco was worth it? No. But he was hyped up then. He was hyped up. And now, what has been his bugaboo? Being injured. Right? Best ability is availability. And Garoppolo seems to not be able to stay on the football field. Can't stay on the field. So if you're San Francisco, you're trying to make teams think that Garoppolo is going to be a part of your plans, because you can't say, we don't want him, he's sour grapes, he's a, used up product, because then you're going to get nothing in return. And you can't say, oh, well, we're just going to go draft a quarterback, someone go take him, because then, then your negotiating goes down a little bit if you make it seem like you don't even, you have no need for him. So they're trying to play a careful game right now, which is pretend that they still want Jimmy Garoppolo, keep Garoppolo happy in the meantime, and then figure out who you're going to draft with that 3rd overall pick. And we'll get into that in just a few moments. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had a press conference this past Monday. Not Monday as in yesterday when you're listening to this, but a Monday before. And Rich Eisen of the NFL Network on his show talked about that this might have been one of the most straightforward press conferences that you'll ever see. And in the NFL, you have guys like Bill Belichick who will say absolutely nothing. He'll literally say nothing. He'll say, just not talking about it. We're on to Cincinnati. You'll have guys like Brady, who at least when he was in New England, he'd say things, but if you ever listen to what he was actually saying, it would kind of mean nothing. He would never give you a straightforward answer. He'd just give a roundabout way of saying, oh, we need to, play better. It's a team game, and then you have Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, who were very, very straightforward. They had said that Jimmy was not happy when they got the 3rd overall pick. They're like, yeah, Jimmy obviously wasn't happy. We called him. He wasn't pleased, but but then they're like, but maybe a mad Jimmy is a good Jimmy. That's literally what they're saying. They're like, sometimes Jimmy plays a little bit better when he's upset or he's mad. And then they're like, they're talking about, that that they're kind of sitting dead at pick number 12, which they had before they had traded up. They're like, we're kind of sitting dead at pick 12, so we wanted to move up and get our guy at 3. So they're very, very, like, no one is questioning what San Francisco is going to be doing in the draft. They're going to get a quarterback, and the topic of this entire segment is, where will Jimmy Garoppolo be ending up? San Francisco has the cap space in order to keep both quarterbacks on the roster for 2021. I'm sure they would love Garoppolo to take a pay cut, but I don't think he will. But again, because let's say they get Mac Jones. We'll get into Mac more in a second. Let's say they get Mac Jones with the 3rd overall pick. Okay, because that's a lot of people are kind of leaning that way. Mac Jones, 3rd overall pick. Jimmy Garoppolo is also going to be on the team. That's scenario 1. Now, interesting because who do you start week 1? Do you start your 3rd overall pick? Do you start Jimmy Garoppolo? What does the locker room think? The locker room knows they got to a Super Bowl in 2019 with Jimmy Garoppolo. They had a 10-point lead against the Kansas City Chiefs in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was one throw away to Emmanuel Sanders down the middle of the field, which would have won them the Super Bowl. Apparently, guys like Jimmy Garoppolo in the locker room. That's great. They know that they have the ability to win with Jimmy Garoppolo. They went 13-3, 2019. 2020, different story, a lot of injuries. Now you bring in Mac Jones, 3rd overall pick. So let's say you start Garoppolo. What if he struggles? When do you put Mac Jones in? It's going to be a little bit of a rift, I think, if you keep Garoppolo. And we talk about quarterbacks, mentoring. You have Favre and Rodgers. We all know that Favre was very unwilling to help. You have, and this is now even in the news too, Flacco now with Jalen Hurts. He says he's pretty much not going to mentor him. You have guys who are very willing in some cases and then unwilling to help the new young quarterback on the team. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's trying to have a starting job and to keep his $20-some million salary. He doesn't want to be supplanted by Mac Jones. Not at all. So, is he going to mentor him? No, I don't think so. Do I think San Francisco should keep both quarterbacks? That was scenario 1. No, I do not. I think draft day, you could probably make a trade and get Jimmy Garoppolo out of town and maybe get some of your draft capital back. Because I read this at the beginning. Think about how much San Francisco gave up just to get that 3rd overall pick. They gave up a ton. Like I said, first-round picks in 2021, 2022, 2023, and a 3rd-round pick in 2022. That is unbelievable. So could you get Garoppolo out of town and maybe get back? Could you get back that 2nd-round pick that you gave up for him in the first place? Could you get someone to take on that contract? Contract's not cheap. But then again, everyone always says, cap space is not real. You can always maneuver it around. Those avoidable years at the back end of a contract, push the money back. $1 today. You'd rather be paying the $1 3 years from now than the $1 today because salary cap's going to be going up and up and up. So, yeah, you could. Let's say you get to the 3rd pick in the draft. Mac Jones is still there. That's your guy that you want. Can you say, sayonara, Jimmy? Give him to the highest bidder? Give him to, who would really want Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, you keep hearing New England, and that brings up a good point. Jermaine Wiggins, former New England Patriot, questions Jimmy Garoppolo will be able to hold up. He says if he goes to New England, would people be looking at him sideways a little bit, thinking that, how can this guy stay on the football field? Because that's been the one thing. He can't stay healthy. So going back to that Shanahan and Lynch press conference, again, Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, John Lynch, the general manager. Lynch said that Garoppolo was, quote, very much still in our plans. Okay, and they had said they're comfortable having him on the depth chart with whoever they draft, let's say Mac Jones. But again, he has to say that to keep his draft stock high. He has to. Kyle Shanahan said it'll also be hard to find a quarterback better for the team than Garoppolo. Garoppolo versus a rookie. Now, that's a good point. That is a really good point. Think back to quarterbacks you draft and, as a rookie. How many of them, could you say will get you to a Super Bowl? Get you a 10-point lead against the Chiefs in a Super Bowl? Could obviously Mac Jones, they're high on. But it's always a gamble in the draft. You know what you're going to get in Garoppolo. Okay? And then going back, I alluded to this earlier, Shanahan also said Garoppolo was not happy about it, but he handled it great like he always does. We still plan on him leading us and getting as far as we can with him. Now, that's the question. How far can you get with Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you remember back to the NFC Championship game, 2019? How many times did Jimmy Garoppolo throw the football? I'll let you think for a second. How many times did Jimmy Garoppolo throw that football? 8 times. 8 times he threw the football. He went 6 for 8 in an NFC Championship game. Kyle Shanahan was scared to have him throw the football. And then you pay the guy $20-some million. I think the 49ers are almost a little confused what they think about Garoppolo. Because if he can get... The hard part is going 13-3. The hard part is getting the 10-point lead in the Super Bowl. The easy part is maintaining that 10-point lead. It is finishing it off. But can you get to 13-3? Can you, roll through the playoffs like they did in 2019? Will Mac Jones do that? Will a rookie do that? When was the last time, you see a rookie have that kind of success in the playoffs and to get to a Super Bowl? Can you really expect that of Mac Jones? I don't know. Everyone always says, now let's get into Mac Jones a little bit. Everyone says Mac Jones, he's going to be able to run a pro-style offense. He did so at Alabama. They're very high on him. Mac Jones was interviewed at his pro day, and he said that he talks about the 49ers offense. He says the 49ers offense is quarterback friendly. Well, that's interesting. So a quarterback friendly offense, Mac Jones seems to, maybe he would like to play in San Francisco. Who wouldn't want to play for, Kyle Shanahan in a quarterback friendly offense? That seems great. You see the way that their offense ran in 2019. I keep making reference to 2019 because the 2020 team just was not the same due to injury. Their offense looked, it was very, very interesting, very efficient. Their run game compounded with their short outside passing game that almost mimicked a run game in a way. You swing the ball out wide. Get that. Those are their outside zone plays or their throws to the outside. So Mac Jones, all indications is that that's their guy that they're going to get with the 3rd overall pick. I mean, I think they keep saying that they're comfortable having both of them on the depth chart. And again, I really believe they are only saying that, to keep his value high. I think they're going to get rid of Garoppolo some way or another. And I think they should. Get what you can for him. You gave up so much draft capital for the 3rd overall pick. And you see different strategies now in the NFL. Is it, do you go for a guy in the draft and hope you hit the jackpot? You hope you find your, you look what Seattle did back in 2013. You have a loaded defense. You're able to pay some of those guys, and then you roll with a quarterback on the rookie deal. The Rams, Jared Goff, when he was on his rookie contract, they were able to pay a ton of guys and then roll with a quarterback on his rookie deal. And they're able to win. They're able to come close to winning. And then you have the other strategy. Buccaneers, they were close. They knew they had the roster. So then you go and get a guy like Tom Brady, who is accomplished and well-known. You know, there's a couple categories of what a team has with their quarterback. They either have their franchise guy, they're looking for their franchise guy, or they're somewhere stuck in between. I think San Francisco's somewhere stuck in between because they don't know what to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. But, I mean, I really believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be there in 2021. I think he's going to be on another team. I think it's a waste to have Garoppolo on your team with that contract if he is not going to play. And if my final case for this would be Shanahan was scared in 2019, only letting him throw 8 times in the NFC Championship game. Jimmy Garoppolo missed the throw of his life in the Super Bowl that would have won them the Super Bowl. They traded up for the 3rd overall pick. Their quarterback right now, Garoppolo, can't stay healthy. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Garoppolo's going to be out of town. That's what I think. Coming up next segment, what we're going to be talking about, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. Is there a feud going on there? Is there? We all know that the relationship between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But is there now a saga between the coach and the owner? Find out what I mean coming up next, right after the break.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
We are back from break. So, what did we accomplish so far today? Well, we talked about the Jimmy Garoppolo saga that is going on in San Francisco and what they plan on doing with him. I think they're going to get rid of him probably on draft day, and then I think they're going to go and get Mac Jones with the 3rd overall pick and the 2021 NFL draft. So, what are we going to talk about now? Well, we're going to be talking about Belichick and Kraft. And by the way, stick around later in this episode, and we're going to be doing something fun. We're going to be talking about the best games that were just announced the other day for the 17th game in the NFL season. But first, Belichick and Kraft. What's going on with them? So let's just give a little bit of background history first for all of you out there with Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and of course, when you talk about those two, you have to talk about Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Okay. So back in 2017, I believe an article was released by Seth Wickersham, basically, reporting rifts between Brady and Belichick. And Kraft was involved, pretty much almost as a mediator. Because, and how did this rift arise? After a few years ago, Bill Belichick wanted to move on from Tom Brady. He said, I want to go with Garoppolo here. He is going to be the starter moving forward. And that's why he traded for Brandon Cooks in 2017. That's why, he was going to be the wide receiver for Jimmy Garoppolo. He was going to be that guy. He was going to be what, they thought was going to be Garoppolo's type of offense. Cooks didn't fit the Brady style of offense. He was productive with Brady, but he just wasn't, almost a little bit misfitty there. And then when, Tom Brady, of course, won MVP in 2017, got them on the brink of a Super Bowl win against the Eagles. Didn't win it, of course. And then Brady, of course, doesn't want to get traded because that's what Belichick wanted to do. He wanted Garoppolo to be his guy, and he wanted to move on from Brady. All reports indicate that Brady probably went to Mr. Kraft and said, listen, I don't want to be shipped out of town here. I kind of like you here. So let's do something about this. I don't want to be gone. And then so Mr. Kraft, for the first time in his ownership tenure, stepped in and told Belichick what to do in terms of personnel. Since Belichick was coach in 2000, and Kraft bought the team in 94, I believe, he never told Belichick what to do in terms of personnel decisions. This was the first time he said, Bill, you are not trading away Tom Brady. He is here to stay. So, if you're picking between Brady and Garoppolo is going to be the man that's heading out of town. And then, of course, Brady stays. Garoppolo gets shipped out to San Francisco for a second-round pick. We talked about that earlier in segment 1. And Belichick was upset by it. He was. And following that, a lot of ramifications began. He then traded away Brandon Cooks after that season. He then tried to trade Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski, of course, threatened to retire. Danny Amendola, who was very, very productive in New England. They called him Danny Playoff Amendola. They let him walk in free agency, and they replaced him with no one. No replacement for Danny Amendola. They draft a running back that had knee issues and has so far been pretty unproductive for New England, Sony Michel. And then you are left with Julian Edelman, who, of course, was aging and suspended for the first 4 games in 2018. No replacement there. So you're stuck with an offense that has only lost pieces, yet Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl in 2018. So ever since that moment when Belichick had to trade what he probably thought was going to be his crowning jewel, he thought, okay, yeah, I did it with Brady. I'm going to draft Garoppolo. I'm going to raise Garoppolo, and I'm going to go win with Garoppolo and show that I can go do it with anyone. Ever since he had to trade away Garoppolo, I think he's been upset. He hasn't been the same. Apparently, the relationship between Belichick and Garoppolo is a good one. Belichick texts Garoppolo after good games, congratulates him. And so ever since that moment, Belichick, I think, has been unhappy and made questionable moves. Then he drafts guys like N'Keal Harry, who has also been very unproductive. The Isaiah Wynn pick was pretty good, but time and again, Belichick's draft picks have just fallen through. And so now that sets the scene for what the rift is currently between Belichick and Robert Kraft. Well, what did Robert Kraft say that may indicate that he was unhappy with Bill Belichick? Well, first of all, Robert Kraft said, quote, if there's ever a year to spend a lot of money, this would be the year. Because we moved quickly. Instead of having 10, 12 teams compete against us, there were only 2 to 3. I really hope it makes a difference. I'm excited about this upcoming season. So, why did they have to spend so much in free agency? We talked about this on a previous episode. Well, it's an indication that, maybe Bill Belichick hasn't drafted the best players lately. And I just named a few. Maybe Bill Belichick, the defensive coach, is really good, but how good is Bill Belichick, the general manager? I mean, really. And Robert Kraft spoke about it point blank. He said, quote, really, the teams who draft well are the ones who will be consistently good. I don't feel like we've done the greatest job in the last few years, and I really hope and believe I've seen a different approach this year. In the end, it all comes down to what happens on the field and how people execute. And you really don't know how good a draft is for at least 2 years. So, that obviously was a slap in the face to Belichick. He's the guy who drafts them. And Nick Caserio, too. Nick Caserio was the director of player personnel. He is now in Houston. Kraft also said, we missed to a certain extent in the draft, so this was our best opportunity, talking about all the moves that they made in free agency. So, this actually raises a good question. Is it an indication of bad drafting by Bill Belichick? Or is it an indication of the lack of ability to grow these players and to, teach them and to get them into being starter level type guys who are productive on the football field? Because the guys they're drafting, it's not like they're drafting, your neighbor from Dorchester. They're drafting like NFL guys. They're drafting guys. You're not like shaking your head when they drafted N'Keal Harry with a 32nd pick. You're really not. When they got Isaiah Wynn, that made sense. Sony Michel, he was really good at Georgia. So it's not, you're not saying, wow, what a ridiculous pick by Bill Belichick here. So maybe they just aren't developing the talent as well as they should be. Obviously, think back to the N'Keal Harry draft and who they could have had. They could have had a plethora of other guys. Yeah, you look at what, DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin and A.J. Brown are doing. And N'Keal Harry shows flashes of being able to do pretty good stuff. But maybe they just aren't able to develop as well as some of the other teams. And maybe that shows more about, instead of lack of draft ability, maybe it's just not about developing as well. What would N'Keal Harry be doing? Like, obviously, DK Metcalf's a freak, but that's a different story. What would N'Keal Harry be doing in Seattle? Would he be better? Would he be catching moon balls from Russell Wilson? I don't know. So, obviously, those comments from Robert Kraft have to be a dig at Bill Belichick. They have to be. And he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth. It's not like these are undeserving comments. So let's talk about the quarterback situation in New England too, because I think that might be another little rift between Belichick and Kraft. So do we think that Robert Kraft regrets not bringing back Tom Brady? Again, all these quotes from Robert Kraft. He had a press conference earlier in the week. Robert Kraft said, quote, look, I love Tom Brady, and he's great, but he's moved on. What happened here last year was not something to our liking. we had to make the corrections. I would have loved for him to retire as a Patriot. Everybody knew that, but in life, things just happen in a way that you have to balance a lot of things. After 20 years, I thought he was entitled to make a decision. That was what he thought was best for him and where he was at. We gave him the ability to do that. I remember, and that's the end of the quote. I remember back when Brady was leaving New England back, a year ago, probably this time. And, reports came out. Brady went over to Kraft's house. They had a good conversation. There was crying. Obviously, that's what happens after 20 years in one place. And you have a lot of success together. Obviously, Kraft wanted him to stay. And now you look back at how each of their seasons went in 2020. Tom Brady went and won his 7th Super Bowl with a different team in his first year in a pandemic season. That's crazy. And then you look at what the Patriots did. They went 7-9 with Cam Newton mostly, mixed in with a little bit of Jarrett Stidham and a dash of Brian Hoyer. It didn't work out very well. 7-9. Maybe they had a sparkle here and there of what the team could be. They beat the Baltimore Ravens and they played pretty well. They beat the Chargers and played pretty well, but then you have those disgusting games. Like against San Francisco, you get blown out. Or like against the Rams, get destroyed. And, I talk about this a lot. It's really about the quarterback position, and that's what it's about. Kraft saw what Brady did in Tampa Bay, but I am going to admit there is a difference between what Brady was working with in New England versus what Brady was working with down in Tampa Bay. For most of the season in Tampa Bay, you have Evans and Godwin, who were Pro Bowlers the year before. Then halfway through the season, you bring in Antonio Brown. It would be wrong for me not to mention that Scotty Miller is a really good player. He is awesome. He was Tom Brady's go-to guy in the beginning part of the season, and then ramped him up again near the end of the season. And in the postseason, Scotty Miller came to play. Loves him. And then they drafted a guy in the 5th round, Tyler Johnson. He's really good. You remember in that New Orleans playoff game? 3rd down, 3rd and long, 3rd and 10 might have been. Throws a back shoulder. Ball, far, pretty, not too close to Tyler Johnson. But he makes a spectacular acrobatic ballerina-type play to make a catch on a 3rd down in a playoff game in New Orleans. That's pretty impressive. They like what they have there. And now you take a look at what New England had with Brady in his last year. You're throwing to Julian Edelman on a hobbled knee, literally hobbled. I remember he was not in good shape at all with that knee. James White, I'm sure, caught the most passes. You had Ben Watson, who, remember Ben Watson? He played on a torn Achilles all year long in 2019. He did. And then your other tight end was Matt Lacoste, not much better. Maybe a little bit of Ryan Izzo. And then the rest of your receivers, N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers. You bring in Mohamed Sanu, who's productive for one game and then nothing after that. So, yeah, there is a big difference in 2019 talent for Tom Brady versus 2020 talent for Tom Brady. I will give you that. But, it would be interesting. What would the 2021 Patriots look like with Tom Brady? Right? Because, obviously, if you talk about regret for Kraft, he said it. He would have loved for Tom Brady to stay. But I don't think Tom Brady on the 2020 Patriots wins the Super Bowl. They don't. Not with that group of guys. It would have been similar to 2019. Probably would have gone 11-5, maybe 12-4, whatever. Because that team would scrape together 11, 12 wins. You know it, like they do every year. but they'd probably get bumped in the first round again with that talent. But I'm interested. What would he do with the 2021 team with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne? You got James White back. Julian Edelman, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be playing? You signed studs on the defensive side of the football. What would Tom Brady do with the 2021 team? I talked about it last episode. Cam Newton, he is not the key to unlocking these free agent pieces in Foxborough. You need a better quarterback. What would Tom Brady do with that team? Get the double tight end action back. So that, that would really be interesting to see. And another interesting quote from Robert Kraft about Tom Brady. He says, it's like marriages sometimes. No one knows on the outside everything going on, and you try and balance a lot. And it is what it is. Anyone who spends 20 years with us and helps us win 6 Super Bowls. Look, we could have contract-wise kept him in our camp, but it's just not the right thing. Naturally, we want to win, but who knows what would have happened if he stayed here. Look what happened at the end of his last season here, referring to that Tennessee wild card game. Last throw of Tom Brady's career in New England was a pick 6 to his former teammate Logan Ryan. Man, that was interesting for sure. Almost funny. It really was, and it was an indication of how that entire season really went for the Patriots. That game when his receivers just weren't getting open, no separation at all. There were a couple times when I'm like, is Tom Brady smiling right now? Is he laughing at just his receiver's ability to do absolutely nothing? A little bit comical. Really was. But Belichick and Kraft, obviously, like I mentioned at the onset of this segment, Kraft took Tom Brady's side a few years ago, put his foot down and said, no, we're keeping Brady. So Kraft is and was in the Brady camp. Always thought of Brady as another son of his. Belichick, on the other hand, criticized for his drafting by the owner. Had a bad season, 2020. Horrible. People saying, well, Brady or Belichick, who is the reason for the success? So far, it is Tom Brady with a big lead and verging on an irreversible lead after what happened last season. Yeah, I think that those comments were big from Robert Kraft. I think that was almost a kick in the butt heading into draft day, which is now 20-some days away from us. Saying, get your act together. Saying, we are close here. We got our free agents. Go get the draft now. Talking about the 2020 season, Robert Kraft said a little something more. He said, we have a situation where at this point in time, we're trying to do what the best thing for us is. Not sure Cam had the proper weapons around him. Not sure Jared hasn't really gotten a fair shot. This isn't something where you get algebraic formulas. Think of all the people who passed on Tom Brady one way or another. We have to get that position solidified. Robert Kraft and I both know you need to get the quarterback situation fixed, because otherwise every move you make won't be worth it. The Buccaneers have their quarterback situation solidified at least through the 2022 season. That'll put Tom Brady at 45 years old. That was his magic number always. Next segment, and after the commercial break, the Buccaneers get all of their 22 starters back. That's good. Right? Find out what I mean right after this break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Commercial break. And I hope you enjoyed our time away for a few minutes. Actually, I hope you did not enjoy your time away for a few minutes. I hope you missed me so much because I missed you. And now we're back. Okay, so what did we talk about in the previous segment? Well, we talked about the little rift going on between Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and of course, when you mentioned those two names, Tom Brady is involved. Long story short, Bill Belichick, a little criticism for his drafting from the owner for his drafts in the past couple of years and then their lack of success in the 2020 NFL season, especially when you compare it to what Tom Brady did with his first year in Tampa Bay. And then, of course, in the first segment, we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo and where the San Francisco 49ers want to ship him because that is exactly what they want to do. They want to get him out of town. And all these things are interconnected. They are, you know, whether you talk about Belichick, Kraft, Garoppolo, obviously that association with New England and maybe coming back to New England. Well, of course, Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, and now let's talk about Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, and the Buccaneers. And what's going on with them. And, of course, in the last and final segment, which you have to stick around for, are the best additional 17th game of the NFL season. All right, so getting right into it. The Buccaneers, they get all 22 of their starters back. That's huge. All 22 of their starters from the 2020 Super Bowl championship team. So if you remember, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2019, of course. And then it was a big deal made that they got 20 out of their 22 starters back. And you know what their motto was the entire year? Let's run it back. Let's run it back. Run it back. You know how many times they were saying that during the season? Got borderline repetitive, like a broken record. And they were trying to run it back, and they got close. They got to the Super Bowl. You know, they weren't able to close the deal. But they got their starters back, and it seemed like it made a difference. The Chiefs, I mean, it was, you know, they were running through their opponents, and it looked like they were just a much better team than even what they were in 2019. The 2020 Chiefs were better than the 2019 Chiefs. And that's what happens when you get your starters back another year together, especially in a year like 2020, in that pandemic year, having consistency and cohesion. And honestly, that's what makes what the Buccaneers, the 2020 team, that much more impressive. You get a bunch of new guys and you stick them together. And it worked against the team that has been together now for even longer. You get your starters back. That's huge. Okay. But the Bucs, they are able to get all their starters back. Huge. It really was huge. Just think about the guys that they were able to bring back into town. It started with Chris Godwin. He was franchise tagged. Then you're like, all right, who do we go and try and get next here? You get Shaq Barrett back into town. You bring back Levante David. That was huge. Think about this too. O.J. Howard, he didn't play most of the season. And he's going to be back. You bring back Rob Gronkowski. He's back. I mean, it is absolutely insane. What Leonard Fournette, he is back. I mean, oh my goodness. It is insane, the guys that they are bringing back for Tampa Bay. And then on top of that, you have Tom Brady around for another year. They are trying to do what Kansas City did and run it back. I mean, this is incredible. And on top of that, speaking of Tom Brady, he had a minor knee surgery at the end of this season. It was the knee that he had the ACL tear on back in 2008. Reports are saying that it was just a little cleanup surgery. And Jason Light, the GM, had said that he's doing well. He is doing perfectly fine. He is, making great progress and all of that. So no need to worry about Tom Brady. So are the Buccaneers ready to repeat? Because they are cashing in now in order to reap the benefits now, and they don't care about what that means for the future. And what do I mean by that? Well, you sign all these guys with the backloaded deals. You have Tom Brady with all those avoidable years. You remember when the news about Tom Brady extension first came out? It was, 4-year deal, blah, blah, blah. And then it said it's voidable after 2022. So what's the point of that? It's to push all the money into the future, because this year the salary cap is going to be going down. However, after the TV deal hits, especially in 2023, the salary cap is just going to go up and up and up and up. So now you push all those dollars forward, and now you're able to afford these deals. So it's actually very smart to be backloading all these deals. Credit to Jason Light. So is Jason Light, the GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, worried about winning now and paying later? No, he's not. The voidable years will help the salary cap dramatically. The dollars aren't going to inflate. If the contract is, $50 million, it's not, and the salary cap is going to be lower this year, why not make the first couple years low and then back end the entire deal? If it just get to $50 million, $50 million's $50 million. That's the contract. Put it all at the end when the salary cap is higher. So the Buccaneers, the only guy really that they haven't, gotten back just yet, not a starter technically, but I think he had a dramatic impact on the football team. And you know who I'm about to say? Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is still a free agent. What is going on with him? Is he going to be back in Tampa Bay? Is he going to be elsewhere? That is the best question we have. Because the only reason, and let's be honest, Antonio Brown went to Tampa Bay in the first place is because of Tom Brady. Bruce Arians, if you remember, way back, maybe in last summer, said Antonio Brown, we're not going to bring Antonio Brown in. Because people are asking that, because everyone knows Antonio Brown loves Tom Brady, and Tom Brady loves Antonio Brown. Bruce Arians was asked, what are you going to do with, are you going to possibly sign Antonio Brown? He said, no, we're not. He doesn't fit the team. Don't need him. And then you get to week 9. Antonio Brown comes to town. You know what his first game was? That debacle on Sunday night against New Orleans. That blowout. Absolutely disgusting game. I think it was 38-3. And literally people were writing off the Bucs. It's not working out. Tom Brady isn't good. You saw Tom Brady throw 3 picks. Not a good team, not a good quarterback. You bring in Antonio Brown, and look what happens. First game, you get blown out. Is that going to cause a rift in the locker room? You got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're Pro Bowlers of a year ago. You had Scotty Miller, who was being very productive, and you had Tyler Johnson, the rookie. So now Antonio Brown comes in. There's one football that you play with. How are you going to get the football to everyone? How are you going to keep Evans happy? How are you going to keep Godwin happy? How are you going to keep Antonio Brown happy, who we all know may not be the easiest character to deal with? So the guy that you bring in, the 43-year-old quarterback, is coming with some baggage now. Brought in Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette's taking away carries from Ronald Jones. They like Ronald Jones. They also got that rookie Keyshawn Vaughn. And Tom Brady wants Antonio Brown here, and Antonio Brown is now going to cause problems. You get blown out against New Orleans on Sunday night. Everyone thinks you're not good. Everyone thinks you're frauds. But they paid, metaphorically, they paid the piper early on, and it reaped benefits later. I think Antonio's coming out game was probably against Atlanta when they fell down early. And I think they overcame a 21-point deficit against Atlanta. Not the first time Tom Brady came from behind against a Falcons team. Super Bowl 51, of course, we all know that. But Antonio Brown had a go-ahead touchdown against Atlanta. I believe what was close to a 50-yard touchdown. And then, of course, what did he do in the Super Bowl? Ran that spectacular route that had Tyrann Mathieu spinning around at the goal line. Antonio Brown had a good playoffs, too. He caught a touchdown against Washington. He had 45 catches in 8 games. Just about. That's on pace for 90 catches. Would have been close to a 1,000-yard receiver. Now, this isn't Antonio Brown of Pittsburgh, where he would just put up monstrous numbers like 150 catches. Of course not 150, but 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, year after year after year, getting the ball in Pittsburgh. But, you're competing with Evans and Godwin and Scotty Miller, and you're still putting up those kinds of numbers. And you know how the Buccaneers finished their season? 8-0. Ever since that Week 12 Kansas City game, which I said at the time was a good loss for the Buccaneers. A good loss for the Buccaneers. And you know why? Because they had figured out how to attack the blitz. That was the big thing for the Bucs. You blitz them, and Tom Brady didn't know where to go with the football. Because in New England, he had a 20-year repertoire of answers. And when I say answers, is Tom Brady has seen every single coverage known to man. You think he sees something and he doesn't know what it is? Sure, he'll have the rare time where he gets confused or he didn't see someone, whatever. Yeah, he's human. But he knows, if he sees a coverage, he knows where to go with the football. He knows what they are doing to him. But the issue is he comes to a new team early on and they're learning together. So Tom Brady sees a defense and he says, okay, I know how I would have attacked this in New England, but we haven't installed that yet here in Tampa Bay. I can't get to the answer. I don't have the tools to attack that. I can only do what we have, the best fit answer, but that's not the right answer. That's only going to get us close. And so that was the issue. And then in week 12 against Kansas City, then they started finding the answers. They were starting to gel. They were starting to be on the same page and be able to attack. That's the difference. And then they went 8-0 from that point on. And that's just something to think about. They went 8-0 from that point onwards because they started to gel together. That same group of guys is going to be together in 2021. They will be better than they were in 2020. Mark my words, they will. They went 11-5. They lost to the Saints twice. They lost to the Bears, remember? Tom Brady was holding up 4 fingers because he thought that he still had 4th down to play with. Meanwhile, it was a turnover on downs. He lost to the Rams when he had a chance to go down and win the football game, but ended up throwing a pick. Yeah, there are a lot of moments from that season that you're not going to see happen in 2021. You're not going to have Tom Brady holding up 4 fingers. You're not going to have these miscommunications. And remember early on, Bruce Arians, is he blaming Tom Brady? Is he throwing his quarterback under the bus? You're going to have none of that. You're going to have a team that's gelled together. And you're worried about maybe a Super Bowl hangover. That they're not, that they're just going to roll in and strut into the 2021 season and think that that's just going to happen again. You think that the Super Bowl hangover will happen with Tom Brady as their quarterback? No way, no how. He is going to make sure that they are ready to play, that they are working hard. Interviews have come out of Tampa Bay Buccaneers saying, yeah, Tom Brady gets on our butt. He is working hard. I see that 43, soon to be 44-year-old man grinding, sweating in a park in Tampa heat in the middle of August, breaking COVID protocols, remember. I need to get to work. If I'm a 25-year-old, guy on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I see this quarterback working his butt off, restructuring his deal to sign players, doing everything that's selfless for the football team to win, putting a ring on my finger, why would I not want to get back to work? And now it seems like Bruce Arians and Tom Brady are gelled. They're talking about rifts of Belichick and Kraft. There was a rift between Arians and Brady. Whose offense are we running? Are we running the no risk it, no biscuit offense of just huck it and chuck it? Are we going to run the Tom Brady methodical, kill you with 1,000 paper cuts type offense? Who knows? And then, of course, Byron Leftwich did a great job of molding those two types of offenses together, and it worked out really well. And then you had Arians at times saying, Brady made the wrong read there. or that interception was Tom Brady's fault, or we need to play better at the quarterback position. And then they figured it out. And then Bruce Arians, of course, I will watch my language and clean up this quote a bit. Bruce Arians said that he will beat the blank out of them in training camp, talking about the football team. So now you have Tom Brady, Bruce Arians working together. They are ready to get back to work, believe me. Tom Brady, like I mentioned, his knee surgery is going well. He's ready to play. Bruce Arians ready to work them hard. You think Bruce Arians at this point in his career, he doesn't have time to mess around. Tom Brady in this point in his career, he doesn't have time to mess around. This is a team ready to win now. That's why you bring back the 22 starters. You are trying to go back-to-back and win as many championships as you can now and not care about the future at all. Everything has to be revolving around win now. Don't care. 2024 doesn't exist. You're thinking about now. As long as you have Tom Brady. As long as you have Tom Brady, you are in win now mode. Do anything to win now. And I think in order to win now, you talk about having a gluttonous amount of weapons on the offensive side of the football. I do think Antonio Brown needs to come back to town. I think they should re-sign him. Apparently, Bruce Arians says the deals are on the table and we'll, quote unquote, see how it goes. I don't think other teams want him. I think they think he's trouble. Maybe Seattle, rumor has it, they might want him. Do the Buccaneers need him? No, they don't need him. They went 6-2 without him, I believe. But I think they want him. I think Tom Brady wants him. I think that he drastically improves that offense. Because I know, again, this is not Antonio Brown from Pittsburgh, but this is Antonio Brown where you're a defensive coordinator. You can't just say, let's forget about Antonio Brown. Because if you forget about Antonio Brown, there goes 12 catches, there goes $130. He will still kill you. He will still kill you in man coverage. He will. You put someone one-on-one with Antonio Brown, and if that's not your number one corner, or if you're not giving help to that side, he'll get open. So who do you put on Evans? Who do you put on Godwin? Who do you put on Antonio Brown? That's the question. And I think that is a lot different. And granted, Scotty Miller is awesome. He caught that touchdown at the end of the first half against Green Bay in the NFC Championship football game. Scotty Miller's awesome. I love him. And I think Tom Brady loves him and will go to him in key moments. But I think Antonio Brown just provides that different ability, whether, the quickness and the speed. And granted, Scotty Miller is fast. I bet faster than Antonio Brown. But Antonio just, his football IQ is higher. In terms of quickness, I think Antonio might be a little quicker. But let's see. If I'm Buccaneers, I want Antonio back. Well, at least if I'm Tom Brady, I want him back. But who will the Buccaneers be playing next season? We knew the 16 games that they were going to be playing based on the schedule that just goes off of your record and seeding of the year prior, but they added a 17th game for 2021 and the future. The season just got bigger. New added matchups for 2021. In segment 4, right after this break, I will give who I think are the best games that were newly added for 2021. Schedule got bigger, and it is out, and we will go over that in the last segment of the show right after the break.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Back and better than ever after that commercial break. Okay, so we are now in our fourth segment of the show. Here we go. So what have we talked about so far? Great question. Well, we started off with the Jimmy Garoppolo saga and where will he be going to play in 2021. And of course, when you talk about Garoppolo, whose name is also tied into that, that is Bill Belichick, because that was his crowning jewel, Jimmy Garoppolo, that is. And in segment 2, we talk about a rift that occurred between Belichick and Kraft. Kraft criticized Belichick for his drafting abilities or lack thereof drafting abilities. And because of that, Bill Belichick went out and spent big time in free agency. But the quarterback situation not resolved just yet. Are they going to give Cam another shot at it? Who knows? Speaking of quarterbacks, the Buccaneers quarterback and soon-to-be 44-year-old quarterback, Tom Brady, got a little knee surgery. It's cleaned up. It's good now. But GM Jason Light, he put all the pieces of the Super Bowl winning team back together. He got all 22 starters back. Something the Chiefs could not do, but tried to do in 2020. So now you got 22 out of 22 starters back. Bucs are trying to run it back. And the NFL season just got bigger. Earlier this week, it was announced, and we all knew it was coming because of the collective bargaining agreement that was renegotiated last summer. There is going to be 17 games sooner or later, and here they are. 17 games in the NFL season. And now they were announced who will be playing who. We all know the formula to get a regular season schedule within 16 games. You know, you play a certain division in your conference, right? Let's say you're the Buffalo Bills, let's say. You won the division. So you play the winner of the AFC West, the winner of the AFC North, and the winner of the AFC South. There's 3. You will also play the Patriots, Jets, and Finns twice each. There's 6. 8. Actually, that's 8. Can't do math. 2, 4, 6. No, I'm right. That's 6. Boy, oh boy. People are going to be questioning my math. I swear to God, I have a 3.92 GPA at Boston University. And I could not do math. But there's 6 in your division. There's 3 based on your seeding. And let's say you play the AFC West in general. You will play a division like the AFC West. And of course, you're already playing the winner of it. So that just adds on 3 additional games. And then you will also play an NFC division. Let's say you play the NFC South, which the AFC East will be doing this year. NFC South. And then you get 4 additional games. So there are your games. You got the 6 divisional. You got the 3 winners. There's 9. You got the 3 additional from your interconference. There's 12. And then you got your 4 out of conference, 16. And everyone was wondering, all right, how are you going to get your 17th game? Is this just going to be a dealer's choice? And apparently it looks like it. A little bit of a dealer's choice. I'm just going to go through all the games right now. And I'll say who my favorites are. What game should we be looking forward to? When is going to be that hotly contested Week 15 game, that's going to be aired at 4:25 with Nance and Romo on the call, and a lot of implications are riding on, big games. Who are the big games? Let's just start from the top. Let's start from the top here. Green Bay and Kansas City. Right now, I have that keyhold in as my number 1 game that was added on this year. Got Aaron Rodgers, okay, coming off an MVP season. Some would say that was his best season to date. You got Patrick Mahomes. That Kansas City offense. Boy. And that Kansas City defense. That Kansas City defense has been revamped ever since the 2019 season. I'm looking forward to that. Green Bay Packers exited in the playoffs courtesy of Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. The Chiefs exited the Super Bowl thanks to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. Now these two are going head-to-head. I remember last time the Packers and the Chiefs played each other. Before, you only get that game once every 4 years. Incredible throws are made. These are two quarterbacks who can make incredible throws. I remember Aaron Rodgers threw this off-center running moon ball, dropped in to the corner of the end zone. I mean, it was crazy. Now you have Patrick Mahomes, who's going to be making no-look sideways, backwards acrobatic as he's diving on the ground, hitting his receivers in the face mask type throws from Patrick Mahomes. And then you got Aaron Rodgers, doing Aaron Rodgers MVP type things. You got two fantastic arms that are able to do anything they want. Right now, I think that is my number one game that I am looking forward to. Out of all these additional not week 17 games, but additional 17th game. I'll give you another good one. Seattle and Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger coming back. He's coming back. You got Seattle. Is Russell Wilson going to be there? Who knows? This is a game where if Russell Wilson's not there, and if Ben Roethlisberger is injured, this could be a snooze or this could be awesome. This could be like one of those 40-37 type shootouts, whatever. Think back a couple years ago in 2018, you had the Rams and Chiefs going toe-to-toe, like 50-45 was the final score or something like that. Seahawks, explosive offense. Pittsburgh went undefeated through 11 games. Ben Roethlisberger, who knows, maybe he can get it back together, and Pittsburgh could be that Pittsburgh team of old. That's a really good game I'm looking forward to. I think that'd be awesome. And here's a game that could have been interesting, and I think still could be interesting based off of what the quarterback situation will be for the New Orleans Saints as they play the Tennessee Titans. Because I know the Titans will be decent. They will be above average. I think we know the Titans will be above average. Mike Vrabel really coaches that team hard. The Saints. Is Jameis Winston? Is it Taysom Hill? Who knows? Those are two extremely different type of quarterbacks. But are they going to play well? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play. But I think that could be a really good game. But that Saints team, this is what I'm leaning towards, and I'll tell you a little secret here. That Saints football team last year was a good football team. They were good. They are good. They won that NFC South division. And I don't think Drew Brees is good. Sorry. Last year he wasn't good. The year before, I don't think he was good. Yeah, the Saints have been really good since 2017, making the playoffs, whatever. But they are having these playoff exits, and their offense is limited by Drew Brees' arm. Against the Buccaneers in the playoffs, who was it that threw a touchdown pass? I believe it was Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston did. They had to bring him in on a trick play because Drew Brees can't throw the deep ball. They devise trick plays and gimmick plays to get the ball deep. Drew Brees limits them with what he could do. So either Jameis Winston comes in and they actually are pretty good still, or Jameis Winston comes in and it turns into 30 interception Jameis Winston and the Saints go 7-9. Or Taysom Hill comes in and he runs a decent offense, but, I do think that he is not the preferable option to have at quarterback. I think that's an interesting game. A game that I don't know how the Los Angeles Rams will be in 2021. They will be playing the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, regular season type quarterback. Yeah, he'll get it done. He'll get that team to somewhere between 10-6 and 12-4. Actually, well, there's 17 games now. So, when we hypothesize about records, we have to take that into consideration. It's just so natural to say 10-6 or 13-3 or 12-4 or 9-7. Now, all right, so let's say this team, the Baltimore Ravens team, will be somewhere between 10-7 and 13-4. Is that right now? There's going to be a team that can be 13-4. They'll be somewhere between there. Lamar Jackson is pretty good in the regular season. In the playoffs, not so much. And they'll be playing the Rams. Rams just got Matthew Stafford from Detroit. Said Jared Goff, see you later. You limit us on offense. We're going to get the guy, Matthew Stafford, that I think will have a field day with this Sean McVay offense. I think that's going to be really good. I'm interested. The Rams, I think, again, similar to the Saints, they have a good football team around them. I mean, talk about Jalen Ramsey for a second. He is good. He is real good. This Rams team beat the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers. And this Baltimore Ravens team, I think this could be a real fun game. It really could. Now let's talk about, we talked about Matthew Stafford. He's been in the league for, quite some time now. Let's talk about some of the young bucks. Kyler Murray going toe-to-toe with Baker Mayfield. Mayfield and the Browns got it done last season. They really turned the corner. They went from, the story of Baker Mayfield is interesting. And it's so far, it's a tale that has been positive. His rookie year was great, spectacular. Set the rookie record for touchdowns, beating the sheriff, Peyton Manning. 2019, major step back. He wasn't good. It was almost as if there was an Odell Beckham effect. And he was trying to force in the football. Step back in 2019. And then the third year for any player is monumental. I'll say this this is for quarterbacks. That's why that 2018 draft class of Baker, Darnold, and Allen and Jackson. Let's leave Rosen out of this. Take it easy on him. It's a huge year. So Jackson finally won a playoff game. Josh Allen really could have been an MVP. And then Baker Mayfield proved himself. So I think those three guys, big third year for them. Now they're heading into their fourth. So you got Baker Mayfield on the up and up. I think that Browns team's good. The thing that what they are doing with those two running backs, Chubb and Hunt, dangerous. It's dangerous. Chubb is really, really good. He is a great running back. And then Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is a starting running back. He can catch it. He can run it. It's really something else to watch. And then now, the flip side of that coin, you got Kyler Murray and that Cardinals team, Cliff Kingsbury, DeAndre Hopkins. Larry Fitzgerald's a free agent. Will they bring him back? I don't know. But that Cardinals team is interesting because remember when they beat the Buffalo Bills on that Hail Murray, as everyone called it, Hail Murray? And they were, for a hot second, almost competing to try and win the NFC West, but then it faltered, and then it turned into trying to get a wild card, and then that faltered. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the story of the 2020 Arizona Cardinals went from very positive and very good to falling off and no longer being able to win games and stay in the hunt. I'm going to love that Arizona and Cleveland game. That's going to be really good. so far out of the games I've listed. I think Green Bay and Kansas City is number one for me. This Arizona and Cleveland game is number 2 on my watch list. Seattle and Pittsburgh, that's going to be 3. Rams, Baltimore, that's 4. But this game might shake up my ranking list a little bit. San Francisco and Cincinnati. We talked about this on segment 1. Who on earth is going to be quarterbacking, taking snaps under center for the San Francisco 49ers in 2021? Jimmy Garoppolo? Maybe. Kyle Shanahan says so far that's their guy. Until stated otherwise, that is their guy, Kyle Shanahan says. John Lynch moving up to get that 3rd overall pick. Maybe pick Mac Jones. So right now, let's say you have Garoppolo or Mac Jones leading the way for San Francisco. And then guess who you get back if you're Cincinnati? You get back Joey Burrow. Joe Cool. Let's not give him that nickname just yet, but Joe Burrow. I liked what I saw from Burrow before he got injured, and too bad he got injured, but it seems like he is on the path to recovery, so good for Burrow. Good for Burrow. But that is going to be a game I would like to see. This is almost going to be treated as, could you say, Burrow's rookie year because of that injury? I mean, it'll be fun to watch. I'm going to like that game. You know, maybe 2 years ago, that game would have been a snooze fest. Tell me what you would have thought in 2018 if I told you that the 49ers would be playing the Bengals. Would you watch that? I wouldn't. That sounds boring. But this game now sounds interesting. These young quarterbacks are spicing up the league. It's making things a lot more interesting. I'm looking through this list. Even this Giants-Dolphins game is interesting because you have Tua and you have Daniel Jones. This Eagles-Jets game could be interesting because of Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen Hurts. I love what he did at Alabama. I love what he did at Oklahoma. And I loved what he did when he stepped in for Carson Wentz. And he spiced up that football team. Now, the Jets, they have no idea what they're going to do with their quarterback. Are they going to keep Sam Darnold or not? I don't know. I think they're going to have to try and get a guy. And I think they will. I think they're going to go and get Zach Wilson. Because Sam Darnold, I don't think, can get it done. And is Sam Darnold going to be playing anywhere? 2021? I don't know. This Washington-Buffalo Bills game. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick going to be starting, or is Taylor Heineke going to be starting? Oh, if it's Fitzpatrick, it's going to be a revenge game. But again, remember, almost every single game is a revenge game for Fitzpatrick because he's played almost everywhere. Tampa Bay and Indianapolis. One of the best offenses in Tampa Bay, one of the best defenses in Indianapolis. That's going to be fun. A lot of implications on that one, too. Tom Brady against his rival for well over a decade, the Colts. Think about this, too. There is no love lost between Tom Brady and the Colts. I mean, right? That was the Deflategate game. His former offensive coordinator and good friend Josh McDaniels was going to be the head coach of the Colts until he said, turn this plane around. I don't want to be the head coach of the Colts anymore. You know, former backups like Brissett have gone there to Indianapolis. There's a lot of connections between these two. Great offense, great defense. You know, I'm a big fan of this additional 17th game. And just some honorable mentions. You know, Atlanta and Jacksonville. I'm sorry, but that might not be too interesting. It might not. It may, it might not. Carolina and Houston. I don't know what's going on in Houston. We could talk for hours about what's going on in Houston. Honorable mention, Chicago and the Raiders. Khalil Mack reunion. Yeah. Minnesota and the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert's exciting, but to me, Kirk Cousins doesn't get it done. Lions and the Broncos. Okay. Jared Goff against Drew Lock. Is that okay? And then you have Dallas and New England. That could be a great one, or that could be a horrible one. But again, these are probably the two America's teams. So I think, you're gonna get people to watch it. Media will love it. But if this is a Patriot team, that I think you're going to have to set that game very early on in the season, because before you know if the Cowboys are bad and if the Patriots are bad, get as much hype for that game as possible early on. Maybe like a week 5 game, week 4, 3, whatever it is. Green Bay, Kansas City, you can stick anywhere. They're going to be good. But those are the 17 games, additional 17th game. I beg your pardon. Like I said, we can look forward to a lot. And we just went through them. I said the ones that I'm looking forward to. I'm saying the ones that I'm excited. We talked a lot today. We did. We talked about a lot. We talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. We talked about Belichick and Kraft. Talked about the Buccaneers. Then we talked about all these additional games, 17-game schedule now. That's going to be awesome. And, I love speaking to you guys. I love doing this. I hope I informed you. I hope we laughed together, lived together. I don't know if we cried together. Maybe we'll get to that point. Maybe you did cry. And if I did, I'm sorry, or you're welcome. Either of the ones. Just take your choice. But I'll let you get back to your day, and thank you, for spending time with me today. But thank you for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you. I always have Twitter up on my screen. Message me. I want to talk. I am bored. I want to talk sports. I'll talk anything with you. All right. Here we go. Have a great one. I'll see you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.